What is up, guys? Welcome back to week number 8 and the final week of Project Planche. We made it. We're here. We're at testing week. Let's smash it. So, before we jump into today's episode, I just want to say a quick thank you to, firstly, you guys. We hit 1,000 subscribers, I think a couple of weeks ago now. I didn't get the chance to say thank you, but a massive thank you to everyone who subscribed, who shared, who's liked, who's commented, who's interacted, and just kind of joined and been a part of this. And I really hope that anyone who did do the program has seen some of the results that I've seen, because I've really enjoyed doing it. I've seen some big improvements in quite a few areas. So I hope this also paid off for you, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it. So just a massive thank you there. The second is a thank you to the sponsors of this project, and that is Ardor, who make this damn sexy hoodie, and Oxland, who make the multivitamin that I take every day. So, it is testing week, and this means we want to be at our peak performance. We had a deload last week, so this should bring our heart rate variability up, our recovery should be up, we should be fully raring to go for this testing week. I just want to slide in there that I'm actually at 89.5 kilos as of the morning training week, or testing week, sorry. So compared to where I was at the beginning of the program, I was about 86 kilos. So I've gained about 3.5 kilos. This is partly due to a bit of mass, but it's also a bit of fat. So I've actually been eating a little bit too many calories. I think it's now time to cut a little bit, lose a little bit of weight, because that's going to ultimately make these sort of skills easier. I think this partly reflects maybe that I would have performed better if I hadn't have gained the weight that I've gained during this program. So I don't know, that's a possibility, but not an excuse. Now, I changed the layout of this testing week slightly. I didn't do the days that are set out. Instead, I split these into 2 days. One where I was going to focus on my straight arm testing goals and my shoulder mobility. The second where I was going to focus on my bent arm strength and my lower mobility. So that is middle splits and front splits and hamstrings. I split these up with a minimum of about 4 days in between. This is to allow plenty of recovery for the upper body, because obviously it's a majority upper body goals, and then make sure we can perform again at our peak for both days. The way I went about testing my goals is I gave myself 3 or 4 attempts. I had a good 5 minutes rest in between these attempts, and I just went for max holds, max reps, max effort on whatever I was going for. I did alternate between the pushing and pulling movements. So I did do a set of max effort handstand push-ups, a set of max effort with arm chin-ups, and then just kept going until I was a little bit fatigued, and then just see what I could get out of it, really. The way I'm going to structure this video is in 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to go through each individual goal that I had in the program, and then how I did, and I'll show you the before and the after, see the progress, comment on what I think I can improve, and go from there. The second part of the video is where I'm going to make alterations to the program, how I would change the program, what I would do better, what I'd keep the same. So the primary and secondary goals of this program were, firstly, planche, front lever and shoulder mobility. They were the top 3 goals that we wanted to hit in this program. We hit it the most often, the most volume, so hopefully that should give us the most reward. The secondary goals were our handstand push-ups, one arm chin-ups, and lower mobility. So those were our nice to have. So we wanted to make sure we improved on the planche, the front lever, shoulder mobility. They were our top goals, but then our nice to haves. So if we could get some progress, it'd be great, and we should expect that, but obviously not as much as the primary goals. So I'm going to tell you my particular goal for each particular skill, and then where I actually got to. So number 1 is the planche, and the goal I set for myself here was a 2-second hold in straddle planche, and I would allow myself for up to 45 degrees of a pike. So ideally you want to be planching like this, straight body, but I was going to allow myself up to 45 degrees of a bend in the hips and 2-second hold. So it doesn't seem like much, but compared to where I was, that is a huge difference. So I'll put up now the 2 attempts that I did do at a straddle planche, as well as the comparison of a straddle planche eccentric, which is not my strongest point, but it's definitely an important one to do. I'll show you the difference between week 1 and week 8, and then also the 2 best attempts that I had in week 8. So I'll put those up now. So as you could see from those 2 attempts, the straddle eccentric first off had improved massively. Like, it was a lot more controlled. It still wasn't strong enough. It was more controlled lower down than the previous one. So I think there has been an improvement, definitely visibly. It's obviously nowhere near where we want to be, but that's cool. We've made progress. You got to think short-term goals here. I'm a big guy. It's going to be hard for me to do this position. 2 planche holds, there's sort of 1 to 2 seconds with like a 70-degree hinge, and then sort of 2, 3, 4 second hold with the sort of 90-degree hinge were by far the best holds I've had with the planche. I'm feeling the strongest I've ever felt with the planche, so I think good stuff to come. This program is definitely set up, built a lot of foundations. The weaknesses that I've found doing this planche training is that my glutes are weak. I can't really hold a good straddle position with my back straight, just on the floor, not even in a planche position, without my glutes kind of cramping and not feeling strong enough. So I definitely need to improve my glute strength. That is number 1, as well as just overall strength of the planche. So goal number 2 is the front lever. Now I set a goal to myself of a 5-second hold in a full front lever position. At the beginning of the program, I managed about a 3-second full front lever hold. However, it was never static the whole time. So during that 3 seconds, I was moving slightly downwards. So I never actually managed a static hold. The difference between my week 1 attempt and my week 8 attempt, I think the timings were pretty similar, the amount of time I held it in that position, but the hold itself was more static. It was stronger in that position. So there was definitely an improvement there. But what I find weird is that I can hold a straddle front lever for about 10 seconds, 12 seconds in a full locked-out position, really solid hold, no worries. But as soon as I close my legs and go to that full position, it just drops off. It's going to make it a little bit harder, obviously, your feet are further away, but I think this is actually down to my hollow body and core strength. I don't think I'm strong enough to hold my hollow body in that position, so I think that's my weak area there, and I need to improve on that as well. Goal number 3 is the bridge. Now this has been, I've probably talked about it throughout this series, and it's been the biggest area of improvement. Just looking at where I was when I started this program, I could struggle to hold a somewhat decent floor bridge, and now I'm like almost in a fully locked out floor bridge position. Like, I've made a huge progress in this bridge, and this is something that's been holding me back a long time. I've done a lot of static stretching of the lats, the shoulders, and trying to do it that way, but I've never really stuck to a 3 times weekly bridge training approach, and it's just paid off like huge. I can't actually believe how big the progression has been. I can finally hold like a decent straight line handstand position. It's just, yeah, just from this 8 weeks alone has been a massive change, and I think that's the sort of change that will continue, because when you build loaded ballistic strength in stretches, it's not like a temporary stretching out your muscles, it is a permanent neuromuscular thing. So I don't really have any criticisms here. I can't speak highly enough of how well I've progressed with the bridge. So definite thumbs up that aspect. Now moving into our secondary goals, we've got the handstand push-up. This for me, I wanted to complete 2 full range of motion handstand push-ups in 1 set. Previously I've been able to do like kind of the odd 1 and 2 in clusters, not quite head to floor, but definitely not too far off. So for me, what I realised was this was more about balance. I'm actually strong enough to perform a handstand push-up. If I find myself in the right position and the right balance, I can push out handstand push-up, no worries. It's when I get into that wrong position, that wrong area of balance, is where I make it hard for myself. So on the day of testing, I didn't actually feel that strong. I performed better previously than I did on the day of testing, which is kind of annoying. Leading up to this, in the program, just training itself, I've managed to get like the odd 1.5 sort of reps, full range of motion, whereas when I tested, I just couldn't find my balance. I don't know what it was, I just wasn't maybe in the zone, but that was for me what was challenging. So what I've done to change that is I've started adding back daily handstand practice. So I want to improve my balance, improve my awareness of where my body position is, and really work on keeping a good tense body position so I can be more balanced in my handstand push-up. So I don't think the program itself was too bad. It was only training it once a week, so maybe another additional training would be handy, but it was for me more of a balance issue. So moving on to our second bent arm goal, and that is the one up. This is a bit of a frustrating goal for me because about 1 to 2 weeks before I started the program, I actually managed to get a random right hand one arm chin up. I don't know where this came from, but for some reason I just managed to get a one arm chin up, and I haven't been able to beat it since, really. I think it was just a freakishly strong day for me. My 2 attempts, I think I managed maybe like a 3/4 pull up with the right hand and nowhere near as strong with the left hand. For me, I know I'm not strong enough for a one arm chin up yet. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also heavier, 2 kilos heavier than when I started the program, maybe 3 kilos heavier when I got that one arm pull up. So I definitely probably need to balance that out to maintain my one arm chin up strength. But I don't think I'm going down the wrong path. I think it might be important to increase some more volume, like handstand push-up maybe a couple of times a week, rather than once a week. But I'm happy with the progress, it's improved, but still not strong enough. Then the last 2 goals is the lower mobility. So first off, we're going to do the front splits. Now with the front splits, I'm going to separate this into 2 sort of goals. So the first is my hamstring mobility. So I've been throwing in a lot of loaded hamstring mobility, a bit like the bridge. It's something that I've done consistently 2-3 times a week. Definitely more so than the middle splits or the front splits itself. And the progress has been huge. Like, I'll throw up 2 images of before and after. I'm pretty much a fist away from head to toe. And at the beginning of this episode, I could get elbow to toe after like 1 or 2 sets of actual loaded stretching. So now, within the first set, I can get head to toe, a fist away from head to toe. So that improvement in itself is huge. I can't take really any credit for this because I've just been stealing somebody else's method. That person is EMMET. I've mentioned him in every episode. When it comes to ballistic stretching, I will put a link down in the description to him and the best videos, but he explains it so well. It's definitely not a beginner's method. You want to improve your Jefferson curls and other just general hamstring mobility before you jump into doing the ballistic stuff. Once you jump into it, it rocks. Like, you don't have to static stretch at all. It's the sort of stretching that will give you consistent results. Like I said earlier with the bridge, it's not the sort of thing that you kind of stretching out muscles and then tighten back up again. You're building neuromuscular flexibility, like it just stays. So the progress has been huge with the hamstrings. This hasn't transferred so much over to the front splits. I think they have improved since week 1, but I only started utilising a loaded form of the front splits thanks to Chris Scott, who mentioned in the comments, I think about week 4 or 5, about doing the front splits in an active hold. I've seen some progress just from those 4 weeks, so I think I'm definitely going to switch that up, start using more active holds in the front splits rather than these passive holds, and then hopefully we should see the same sort of improvement as we've seen in the hamstrings. And then finally, moving on to our last goal, and that is the middle splits. My middle split training has been on and off, really. It's the sort of one that I would be at the end of the workout and I'm not actually that bothered by it as a secondary goal. It was a kind of a secondary goal, so it didn't bother me too much, although it should do, because it will make my planche a hell of a lot easier if I can get into a wider straddle. My weight is going to be further over my hands, it's going to make it all easier. So this is the training where I kind of slacked off a bit. I maybe didn't do the full 3 sets a lot of the time, so my progress has been there, but it's not been as good as it can be. So going on from this, I'm definitely going to put that as a focus point. I really want to nail my middle split mobility. It's just going to make everything easier. So I can't really say that I made a huge amount of progress because I definitely could have made more. I could have put more effort into it. So in the future, I'm definitely going to put more emphasis on that. So that is it, guys. That is the goals, the before, the after. I will upload at the end of this. I will put in all the goals back to back, before and after, so you can see it again, or you can just scroll back and watch them individually. So now it comes down to the review, really, of the program. What would I do differently? What would I keep the same? Overall, I really like the program. I thought it works really well. Personally, for me, it was a good amount of volume, considering I can't sleep as long as I like because I work and I have to get up at 6:30 every day. So if I was sleeping maybe 9 hours like I would on holidays, and I could get more recovery, I probably could do more volume. Or I could add another bent arm day in. But with the current situation that I'm in, it was about perfect. Some things that I would change is firstly the periodization. So the periodization that I put in this program was not a last minute thought, but it was definitely not at the forefront of my programming. After doing this program, I was like, shit, this is hard. I've been beating my body up. There is not enough deloading in. There's too much sort of going balls to the wall. I looked at my heart rate variability, which for you who don't know is a kind of a measurement of how well you're recovering, the relationship between your sort of fight and flight and rest and digest nervous system. And my heart rate variability was on like a slow decrease up until that deload week, and then it peaked again and I was back to normal. So there was probably some maladaptation in there, so definitely maybe weeks 5 and 6 I wasn't quite adapting as well because I was overtraining to some extent. So the way that I would change this is I would adopt probably more of a 4-week phase cycle. So I would do week number 1 would be sort of a baseline week. So this would be probably lowish volume, so maybe the 3 to 5 set mark, and then lower to mid rep, so maybe like a 3 to 6 rep range. And that'd be for everything for the first week. Second week, I would do the same rep range, so that 3 to 6 reps, and I would increase the volume. So I would put it up to sort of 4 to 6 sets rather than the 3 to 5 initial sets of baseline sets. I'd up the volume. The third week, I would switch it around. I'd keep the sets lower, so that 3 to 5 sets again, and I would put the reps higher, so maybe the 6 to 10 mark. And then for the final week, I would repeat week number 1, but I would make it a deload week. So I'd probably stick for around the sort of low to mid reps, so 3 to 6 reps, and then I would be going for maybe 2 to 4, 1 to 3 sets. And that is personally how I would change the program. I think that would make it a hell of a lot more manageable. And then on the shorter cycles, you can start reviewing it more often and tweak and change little bits, and then slowly increase the volume as you go through each different phase. And that personally, I think would be a lot better periodization, and I really wish that I'd put that in. But obviously, I can't now, but I can mention it now, and you guys can use this if you did enjoy the program. The second thing I would change is the workouts were quite long. I was spending an hour and a half in the gym, 3 to 4 days a week, and that was, for me, was a little bit too long, especially after work. What I would do is, because about 20 to 30 minutes of that was the mobility side of things, I would probably put my mobility on my off days. Apart from like the bridge and the stuff that was more integrated with the routine, I would definitely be putting like my hamstring and maybe my shoulder mobility and my middle split mobility on my rest days. And I think then I would be able to perform better on my training days, because I know I've only got training to focus on, and I can hit that hard in like 50 minutes, an hour. And on the rest days, I can have a chill session at home and really focus on improving my ability and putting my full effort into it, rather than thinking like, I've just spent an hour and a half, I need to get home, I need to eat food, I need to do X. So for me, I think that would be a balance to strike, and that's how I would change it. And I don't think I would need too much adaptation. It would be sort of taking out the training days and having more of an active mobility focused recovery day. And then the last thing that I would change is the need for higher reps. There was too much time in this program spent in the lower rep range. I think, especially when we're working with easier progressions like the tuck planche, you want to spend more time in that position, especially if you're working even the simpler progressions than that. You want to be spending even more time there. So whatever you're at, the length of the reps you're doing should be relevant to how hard the progression is. So if you're doing full front levers, the reps should be lower, because ultimately you want, like, you're not going to want to hold a full front lever for 30 seconds, or you might do, but initial goals would be like 5 or 10 seconds, so the reps should be lower to reflect that. Whereas with easier goals like the tuck planche, regular pull-ups, the reps should be higher, because the ultimate goal is going to be easier. So that is probably the main way I change the program. First of all, periodization. I'll put a link and I'll write it all down in the description down below for you guys if you want to copy it. I would then take the mobility out of training days and put it on rest days, so I can focus more on the training when it comes to training, and I can focus more on the mobility when it comes to mobility. And then lastly is including some more higher rep work. I think it's important to have a balance of strength and hypertrophy and endurance stuff. A mixture is definitely better than just pure strength. That's something I will include in the future. So that is it. That is my full summary of this project. I would love to hear how you guys are getting on, where you're at in the program. I will always reply to comments down in the description down below. If you enjoyed the program, let me know. If you're doing the program, let me know how you're doing. Tag me on Instagram. Tell us how you're getting on. And if you've been watching and there's something you'd like to see, let me know down below. Say, I want to see video on this, I want you to do Q&As, I want you to make tutorials, anything. I'm now kind of more open. The last 8 weeks I've been focused on producing these videos for you guys, but now I kind of want to start broadening out, answering questions, helping people out, and kind of making information available to you guys. So that is kind of it for today's video. There's been a lot of rambling, a lot of talking, but I hope it made sense. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you are staying strong and smashing the program if you're doing it. If not, smashing whatever training you're doing, whether it's yoga, gymnastics, or whatever. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.